Job seekers are often frustrated when they have decided that they want to take a step back in their career and apply for a lower level position than what they've had, only to find that they can't move forward in the hiring process because they are considered overqualified. So today we're going to talk about how you can help yourself to overcome that challenge. Hi, I'm Shelley Pedmont, a former recruiter turned career coach, and I want to help you thrive and not just survive in your job. Many job seekers decide that for whatever reason they want to take a step back in their career. That can be temporary or it can be permanent. So examples might be a people manager who decides that that part of the job, supervising people, is not something they want to do, or maybe they're not good at it, and they want to move back to an individual contributor role. Or perhaps somebody is later in their career and they've accomplished a lot and they decide they still want to work, but they want to take it a little bit easy, not be in such a high pressure position. Or you could have a new mother who is very successful in her career, but is finding it challenging to balance the demands at a high level job and things that she wants to do for her family. And so she's deciding to take a step back. Whatever the reason, what happens often though is these people are not given a chance to take that lower level role because they can't get to the interview phase because they are considered overqualified for the jobs that they want. So let's talk about how in a resume and a cover letter you might be able to overcome that, and another tip that you should think about to help you. So when it comes to your resume, you always have to be very strategic about what your content is going to be. And this case is certainly a situation where you have to be strategic. So let's go over some of the things that you want to think about in terms of content for this situation where you want to take a step back. Now, one of the things I always suggest is you put the title of the position you want on your resume, right at the top, usually under your contact information. Well, why do I suggest that? Well, because then the recruiter knows that you didn't apply for the wrong position, that you actually want this position, and that you have stated that on your resume. So, easy thing to do. The second thing you need to do is think about a professional summary statement. That would be at the top of the resume, or top third, where you can talk a little bit about what you offer that would be important in this role. Now, when you do a resume, you always have to think about what is going to resonate with the recruiter or hiring team for that position. So it has to be forward-looking towards the position you want, and it shouldn't be backward-looking to the positions you've had. Your professional summary is a place for that. So you can talk about what it is about this role that you think you can provide value with. So maybe it is, some of the keywords in the job description, you have experience with that. Now, I'm going to suggest that you might want to focus in, especially if you're going to go into an individual contributor role, that you are hands-on, that you are able to do that type of work, that you're not above doing it. I would also focus in on, rather than the management part, something you might have done for a lot of time in your career, that your focus is really on your team building, your team collaboration, and that is where you actually bring a lot of value. So that's what I would do in your professional summary to help the reader understand you're not looking for those higher level roles and the duties involved in that. You actually are interested in this role and the type of skills that would make you successful in that role. If you like this content, I'd appreciate a like and subscribe. Next, we come to a skills section. So you don't have to do a skills section, but if you decide to do one, then again, it has to be skills that are important for this role, not necessarily for previous roles. So depending on the role and the job description, those are the ones that you want to highlight. Now, like any skill section, you need to have those skills written in context somewhere in your resume. You can't just dangle a skill out there and not show how you use it. That's not very helpful for the recruiter or hiring team. So remember, pick judiciously the skills that are relevant for that job, and then in the body of the resume, you're going to show bullet points that actually show that skill in use and your success. Next, we come to the experience section. This is going to be the most important section for you to think about strategically. So, one of the things you need to do is pick out from that job that you are interested in what are the duties of that job, and then think about where in your career you have had success doing those things. That's going to be, for some, a little bit more challenging, because if you've been at a higher level, you might have not been doing those types of duties for a while. So you may need to maybe take your more recent jobs and just highlight whatever is relevant, and you may need to go back to some previous work before that to show more about how you do that particular role and your successes. So it's all very strategic. So it's going to be dependent on the role that you want and your particular experience and history. Now, one thing that you don't want to do is talk a lot about your management experience if this job doesn't manage others. And this is a mistake that many people make. They think, well, they'll be very interested in that. And because it was maybe a large part of your job, you want to talk about that. But here's the problem. They care about the skills you have for the position that is open, not necessarily the next level position or the position after that. And when you focus on some skills that you've had or successes you've had in areas that are really at a higher level, that is when you start waving red flags, because that recruiter or hiring team then starts to think, well, they're talking about these things that must be very important to them. So maybe that's what they really want to do. Okay? You don't want to confuse them. So minimize, in those cases, your management experience. Only talk about what's relevant for this job. In the same breath, if you're minimizing your management experience, you might want to elevate your team experience, where you've worked in the team, where you have collaborated. Those sorts of experiences that can set you apart and make the recruiter or hiring team feel like, yeah, this person gets it. They understand what it's like to be in a team, and they seem to have successes in it. They're talking about it. They're focusing in on it. it makes us feel a little bit better in terms of alignment. Another thing that you might want to think about putting on your resume in an education or professional development area would be anything that you have certification wise or anything in professional development in the areas that are important for that particular job. So if it is more of a tactical position, you might want to get certifications in what might be relevant to that particular role that you know that you will use, or some of the professional development in that area, and showcase it so that your reader will understand, yes, they've gotten a recent certificate in this. That must mean they actually really understand this role and are up to date in their skills. Lastly, let's talk about cover letters. Now, you are somewhat constrained in your resume about how much you can speak to the fact that you do want to step back a little bit. But that is where a cover letter is a great place to be able to discuss that, because a cover letter lets you communicate to the hiring team, the recruiter, things that just don't fit on a resume. In this case, they will want to know why you want to step back, and in your cover letter, you can do that explanation on it so that they then go, aha, now I get it. And instead of them making up in their mind why you might want to do this, which unfortunately tends to sometimes happen when there is no information. So please use a cover letter in this situation. It can help you. Now, I want to give you a bonus tip. We were talking about resumes and cover letters, but one thing you can do that will help you is to network within that organization. When you talk to people within that organization, and hopefully that might be people in the hiring team or at least in that department who know those people, then you can tell your story. You can tell your career, you can talk about the things that you've done relevant to the job, and you can explain why at this point in time you want to make a step back. Letting people know your story is helpful because an application is just a piece of paper. It's your resume and hopefully a cover letter. But when somebody within the organization hears your story and understands it, then they get a better sense of who you are. And then they also can tell other people who are involved in the hiring process, what's your situation? That is helpful because, again, you're not leaving it to them to fill in the blanks. You actually then get to tell your story of why this job is a good fit for you right now. So I hope this is helpful. I hope that with these suggestions, you can actually make your wish of moving back into a role that is a better fit for you now a reality.